Good afternoon, everyone. We will be starting less than a minute. If you would like to sign up for citizen comments for agenda item or citizen non-agenda item, please do so now.
Alrighty. So these are agenda items. So the first.
Once again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for attending tonight's workshop. Let the record show that Council Member Solomon, Mayor Pro Tem Cobb, and Council Member Sagara is absent. So we will start off with our citizen comments. Residents, you have 3 minutes to speak, and council, you have 1 minute to respond. It's not a question and answer session, it's just a respond. If you need clarity from an individual, you will be asking them for clarity. There will not be any yelling, screaming, acting out in any manner. If so, this is my first warning. I will request that you be put out. That's my first one. We will start off the citizen. Who made that statement?
I did.
Mr. O'Cray. Officers, please remove Mr. O'Cray. We'll take a 5-minute break. All right, I'm calling this workshop back to order, and let's try this again. For citizen comments on agenda item, you have 4 minutes to speak. You have 4 minutes. Council, you have 1 minute if you would like to ask question. It is not a question and answer. We will start off with Dr. Cochran. So you have 4 minutes. And let the record show that Mayor Pro Tem Cobb is here.
Today I'm going to speak on DS 23-116, Annual Evaluation of the City Manager. The City Manager is well aware of the governing standards and expectations in the manual for the City of Killeen. Section 3-20 describes city boards, commissions, and committees on page 20. Portion N, no employee appointments. To ensure citizens have an adequate opportunity to participate on boards, commissions, and committees, the city employees will not, I repeat, not be appointed to a city-orientated committee. Mayor, I've given you some paperwork. I hope you can review for me, please. You will notice that the name of a Killeen employee administrative assistant who works for the city manager holds a position on a committee and is actively involved in that committee. For the last year or more, this city employee has worked on other committees that are Killeen-centered. Potentially, this person is able to receive overtime based on her involvement with committees. This is a clear violation of the Killeen governing standards, again, that everybody in the government should be aware of, including the mayor and the city manager. This is another example of how the city manager continuously ignores governing standards, but let's move on. According to the open records, allegedly, the city manager makes $250,000 annually, which is 33% higher than the average salary of a person in the same position in another city. The average Killeen employee makes only $45,000. If approved tonight, the city manager will receive a 12% pay increase for 2024. As a taxpayer, do we really need another person making more than the average person in Killeen? He'll make 85% more than the people living in Killeen. Council members, you have a selected member. Let me recur and reiterate things I brought up before. For the last year, the city manager failed to collect revenue taxes from property development ventures and used those proceeds to purchase dilapidated buildings and property. Both actions netted a loss for the city of Killeen. The city manager has failed to support small business efforts. I was told at the last council to go to the city's webpage and look how the city is doing wonderful things for small businesses, only it's not there. I looked. Zero efforts by this city manager to advertise within the city of Killeen's webpage. Look at some other reasons. Does anybody recall back in February this year, 2 weeks, homeowners and businesses had to use bottled water based on the failed attempt by the city manager and the breaking water pipes that are managed by the city. There was chlorine in the water. The city ended up paying $52 million for a temporary fix. That was based again on the failures of the city manager. As a side note, the city of Killeen has sent out 55 boil water notices since this early year. Our nearby cities have only issued 5. There's something wrong with that. You do the math. Let's talk about the roads and streets that have buckled and cracked that aren't being repaired. When you drive home tonight, think of the city manager as you drive home and wait a year and a half for the cosmetic work to be done on nearby cities and streets. Last time the city council said the city council has been given 4 years of a balanced budget. Again, in this document, it says that's minimum for his job requirement to balance the budget. The city governing standards are easy to follow based on doing the minimum. Now let's look at the lack of strategic planning by the city manager. One of the largest posts sits next to Killeen, yet 0 veteran service centers are located in Killeen. If a veteran wants support or benefits, they have to go out of the city limits. Let's look at the grocery store. It's 3 years behind schedule. Only with the involvement of a city resident was it moved forward. Dave and Buster's restaurant. The Killeen city keeps saying a great thing that's coming. Well, it's 5 years behind schedule. Again, thank you, city manager. The council and city manager regularly continue to ask voters for show respect. For me personally, it's hard to respect someone who continually lies in the face of everyone and uses the local newspaper to propagate insults about me and my family. And it's also a personal disgrace for my personal achievements of Killeen to be mentioned in the paper. Thank you.
You're welcome. Melissa Brown. Good evening, you have 4 minutes. Let the record show that Councilmember Sagara is present.
Good evening. I once again come forward to speak in favor of the K-Tempo Safer Streets and Roads for All grant. I'm disappointed. This is the fourth meeting in a row now where I've requested that information on this grant be posted along with the agenda so that other citizens would be able to know what this grant is about, have them be able to come up and speak about it also. The more citizens we have that speak about it, the better opportunity we have to be granted this money. It's great that we can have, 7 comments from the public, but I don't know that it counts as much when it's the same person making those 7 comments in favor of it. On the homeless and mental health strategic plan updates, we have $2.757 million for Arbor of Hope West Reunification Center. We don't know who it's operated by because we're not part of Arbor of Hope anymore. We have been told that by the county, we've been told that by Temple, and unless something has changed and the citizens haven't been told that, I don't know how we expect to operate it because the city isn't in the business of running homeless shelters, we've been told. Also, the reunification center is saying that it's just that, but I believe that the $2 million was set aside for a sprung overnight shelter. And then $500,000 to the homeless to house program operated by Cove House. We also have a dedicated warming center. The questions I have on that, will the transportation be wheelchair accessible? And what about transporting the belongings? What hours will the shuttle be running? Will they be bringing everyone back to where they picked them up at City Hall the following morning? Is it something where they have to be on the shuttle by a certain time or they don't get warm? I think it's great that we have churches involved. What I would love to see is have maybe multiple locations around the city instead of having to shuttle people around. That way, all of their livelihood, all the belongings they have in their life, they can get them there with them. And then finally, I know how the evaluations work, so I wouldn't even stand here and try to tell the council how to do an evaluation on the city manager. I would just ask that they take a look at the city manager's page on the city website. The mission is to provide municipal services and facilities that meet the vital health, safety, and general welfare needs of residents and sustain and improve their quality of life. Their values should be citizen engagement, continuous improvement, fairness, first-rate customer service, fiscal discipline and accountability, highest ethical behavior, and transparent communications. When you look at that page, you'll also be able to see all the duties and responsibilities that are listed for the public to see. So when you hear the citizens come up and they have questions about the city manager and the job that the city manager is doing, if that is not what you want citizens to expect, then perhaps we need to have someone go back and review this and revise it with the city council's approval of what it should say. Because otherwise, this is what the citizens have to go on, which is why they come up and they're frustrated and they're upset. I would also ask during that review, is the city manager expected to follow the same rules as the public? Is he expected to not have conversations all the way through the meeting that are disruptive? I know the mayor has them with the city manager every single week, multiple times. We get threatened because if we have a conversation that she feels is too loud, we're going to get kicked out. But the distraction that's caused by that, where council members are ignored, is okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Michael Fornino. I'm sorry, Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to mention about the Safe Streets Wall. We will have a presentation from K-Tempo and the Safe Streets team from there that will give a full brief. The idea for having the item on the agenda is to give everybody a chance to speak on it and ask questions at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, you have 4 minutes. And good evening.
Pardon me. My feelings and assessment of the city manager are more than on record, and I'll say it again. The man earns over $250,000 a year. Last year, his raise equaled the sum that many in this town struggle, they themselves, to earn. And on that earnings potential, in his tenure as city manager, how many companies do we have in the city of Killeen? And if anybody says or thinks Fort Hood, I've said this before, that anybody who bets their jobs on a military installation, I can think of 2 on both coasts, that there's towns 20, 25 years later, they're still scratching their heads trying to figure out, well, how do we get the military money back? How many companies, not businesses, how many companies in the 19th largest town in Texas will hire you to retire you? We got Lowe's, Home Depot, H-E-B, Walmart. Okay, there are people who do that, but in a town of this size, with the talent pool that we have, I have said it before and I will say it again, we keep funding everybody else's success. You're all on record how wonderful the city manager is. He's nice to you on the phone. He says hi to you in the hallways. The city employees love him. as stated before. Well, of course, they're going to say wonderful things about him if their jobs are at stake. Never once have you taken into account our feelings, our experience, our dealings with the city manager. And one very important one on the matter of integrity and transparency, well, I guess that's 2 items. We're still yet to hear the answer of when the former mayor pro tem resigned. He had that information for quite some time and couldn't even give the courtesy of forwarding it to the mayor, if not any of you, and you accept that. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot in a stress situation to figure out someone's true character. In less than a minute, in combat conditions, I could figure out, once we get past the drill, we can talk about it, we can theorize about it all day long. But once the real stuff starts happening, that's when you find out who somebody is. That night, where you were surprised, Madam Mayor, that the previous mayor pro tem had resigned, and he didn't even have the courtesy, the respect, or the integrity to let you know. We're still waiting. I'm yet to hear it. If anybody here can give me, unless I missed something, when that vital piece of information, he's charged with day-to-day management of the city, and on something that important, he fails, utterly, totally, completely fails the public trust, if not your own. I mean, that's a slap in the face. If I were on the dais, I wouldn't put up with that in your private lives, in your private pursuits, in your private company, in businesses. If you had an employee that did that, I guarantee you, they'd be cleaning out their desk and having the cardboard box with the plant on his way out, waving goodbye to everybody, and it wouldn't exactly be a Jerry Maguire moment. When it comes to simple things like streetlights that we were promised years ago, where are they? Still haven't seen them. For safer streets, better lighting, which was pinned to an accidental, or it was a mistaken identity shooting where if the street had been lighted better, it wouldn't have happened. But instead, this man wants to go to court and try to take on the largest utility company in Texas and try to sue them to get control of their streetlights. I mean, this is not performance. As other speakers have said, he's met the bare minimum, but take it from our perspective and what we tell you. I mean, just the little things like that. You wouldn't put up with your employees. Why should we have to put it up with him? Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Anka, good evening. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. I attended 2 of the public meetings organized by the police department introducing the Real-Time Crime Center, and I'm just going to give you feedback on that, but not just on those town hall meetings, also on my discussions with some business owners and other concerned citizens. First of all, these cameras are located in public areas, and by definition, you cannot expect privacy in a public area with or without the cameras. So I know there's concern about privacy, but you're out in public, so you're not going to have privacy whether there's a camera or not. And the only purpose of the RTCC, Real-Time Crime Center, is to prevent crime and also respond to emergencies in a more efficient manner. And the only persons allowed to use, in my understanding, allowed to use this information are licensed police officers. Police officers get extensive background checks and also psychological testing before they're even admitted to police academy. I'm not saying they're perfect. However, in my opinion, they can be trusted more than other departments. And for that reason, I feel comfortable that they are in possession of this information, and I am glad that they're taking this initiative. I would like to share a discussion I had with a business owner who's actually building a food truck park on Circle M Drive. For those who don't know, is a known area for high crime. I talked to the business owner. He's very interested in connecting to these, to fuses, to the technology by the police department. And it's under construction right now, but I'm sure when it's available, I'll put him in contact with the police. This will help that particular area get better, and the residents will feel safer, and obviously, if you have a business, you want to be safe. Everybody wants to be safe, and this would definitely help. And I still have a little time, okay? So this should be an easy approval for you. As far as the city manager is concerned, you already know my issues that I brought up in the past under the city manager. Staff are allowed to lie to city council. I'm not saying everybody lies, but if they do, they get away with it. If they lie under oath, again, they get away with it. I'm not saying everybody lies, I'm saying they get away with it because the city manager won't do anything about it. And they even lie to police. And there's documentation to show all of this. I understand it's beneficial to your career to praise the city manager. I'm not saying he's a bad person, I'm just saying some of the issues that I wish could be addressed better. As far as the architectural standards and site development standards, I do want to give credit to the staff for working with us on making some changes. And I think you're going to discuss, in particular, some setbacks for certain zonings. And also, I want to give council credit for asking the staff to work with us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sean Price, if you have your phone on, please put it on silent. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm a little backwards with this, so I do apologize if this seems to be confusing. My first one is the Justice Assistance Grant with Temple and Bell County. What are we actually spending in joining up with this grant? Because usually there's a cost involved with that. So if anybody has anything that they can bring forward with that, I'm just curious. It's not a major thing. The other thing is the homeless and mental health strategic plan update. I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if we're following SAMHSA, if we're doing anything with SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, right? They deal with a lot of the homeless veterans, right? We've got 1.4 million veterans in Texas. We got 37,000 homeless vets, right? 91% of those are men, so, and 56% of those are white. So that's kind of like me. And with the rising taxes, my retirement pay is very, very little. So as everything keeps going up, it's like I said, it's pricing me out of my home. So are we utilizing the $2.7 billion from the Unity Agenda underneath the SAMHSA administration, right? Specifically designed for homeless vets, right? So I was just wondering if that's part of the program that we're having now with the homeless and mental health strategic plan here. It's a little out because I'd like to get the information first, then it would resolve my question, I think. So that's really what I'm looking at through that. And if they're using environmental justice and equity against whites in that program, right? Because when you say equity, it means to exclude white people and everybody else is first. So at least that's the way I read it in the examination of the Unity program. So that's what, those are my questions, is how they're going to appropriate that and put that into an effect into our homeless here in Killeen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Price. Madam Secretary, minutes.
MN 23028, consider minutes of regular city council meeting of November 14, 2023.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Council, you have 2 times to speak for 5 minutes. Madam Secretary, resolutions.
RS 23194, Consider a memorandum resolution to purchase a JLG Model T 500J towable boom lift through Central Texas Equipment's Buy Board Purchasing Cooperative Contract Number 68522 in an amount not to exceed $71,226.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Ms. Snook.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Tonight I bring to you an item for a towable boom lift for our Parks Maintenance Division. Pardon me. This is a towable boom lift. It's a capital outlay, equipment and machinery. It would come from account 010-3025-425.61-35. Again, it's an expense and net cost of $71,226. The purpose of a towable boom lift is to provide services related to repairing our parking lot lighting, repair and install a trail lighting, sports and complex lighting, tree trimming, building maintenance, and aquatic facility maintenance. The boom lift will be able to reach heights for servicing of light fixtures and facilities that our current scissor lift is unable to perform in a safe manner. The boom lift is a towable unit. Park staff will be able to use this equipment for the maintenance of lights that require considerable heights, uneven grounds, tree maintenance service, and maintenance and repair of buildings and facilities. Currently, the Parks Division relies on other departments to assist with projects of considerable heights. This would alleviate the strain on the other departments with scheduling and streamlining of these services. And I should note that we've already had interest from some of the other departments to borrow the equipment as well for their services. The City Council has two alternatives tonight. The council may not approve the purchase of the boom lift or may approve the purchase of the JLG Model T500J towable boom lift through the Central Texas Equipment Buy Board Purchasing Cooperative Contract Number 685-22 for $71,226. The Parks and Recreation staff recommends council to approve the purchase of the boom lift so that we can continue to create a safe, effective, and beautiful park environments for the clean community in a timely manner. This purchase will reduce strain on resources for the Parks Division. Multiple city departments will be able to reallocate their staff and labor hours to the departments that they maintain. And currently, on many occasions, we have to rent a boom lift for $1,200 per use or wait on another department. We do have our attached quotes from the Buy Board, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you, Ms. Snook. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Ms. Snook.
Good evening.
Just one question. Do we already have a vehicle dedicated to transporting the boom lift to where it needs to be?
We will be able to transport it with the trucks that we have within our fleet in the department.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 23195, consider a memorandum resolution to authorize a water CCN transfer agreement with West Bell County Water Supply Corporation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Reynolds.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, City Manager, ACM, City Attorney. This is a water CCN transfer agreement between the City of Killeen and West Bell County Water Supply Corp. A little background on this one. There's a 32.8 acre site for the Killeen Independent School District Future Middle School 15 on Chaparral Road. It's currently located in the West Bell County Water Supply Corporation's Certificate of Convenience and Necessity, that's better known as CCN. West Bell they do not have the necessary infrastructure to provide water at this time. The City of Killeen has a 16-inch water main adjacent to the middle school, which can easily meet the school's water demands. KISD has requested that the City of Killeen acquire the CCN for the middle school property from West Bell County in order to provide water to the school. It's expected to open in the fall of next year. KSD is providing the necessary funding for the CCN transfer, but the City of Killeen is required to submit the CCN transfer application to the PUC, the Public Utility Commission. Okay. This gives you a kind of layout of the Killeen CCN versus the West Bell CCN and the location of the 38 acres that we're referring to, 32.8 acres that we're referring to. And we do have a 16-inch line running adjacent to this property that we can easily provide that water to the school, allowing the school to open as scheduled for August of next year. We have two alternatives here. And staff recommend the city council authorize the city manager or designee to execute water CCN transfer agreement with West Bell County for the 32.8 acre site, which will house the Killeen Independent School District's middle school number 15. And as I stated before, it's due to open in August of next year. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. There are no questions.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 23196, consider a memorandum resolution approving a professional services agreement with Garver LLC for the general aviation terminal building design at Skylark Field in the amount of $461,800.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Mr. Wilson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. How y'all doing?
Doing fine.
The item we have tonight is the professional service contract for the Skylark Terminal Design Building. A little bit of background. One of the most important elements of a successful GA airport is a fully functional GA terminal building, also referred to as a FBO building, that provides for all the needs of a modern pilot and their passengers. Business and industry leaders looking to relocate and do business in the community typically fly into a city's GA airport. Thus, the terminal building can be the first impression someone gets of our community. On July 11th, 23, the council approved city ordinance authorizing the issue of certificate of obligation bonds for certain projects. One of the authorized projects was construction of a new FBO building at Skylark Field. This project will replace and relocate the existing 60-year-old terminal building that's beyond its useful life. A newly constructed terminal will include solar integration, energy-efficient windows and doors, and just an overall modern infrastructure that better fits the needs of the Skylark Field Airport and its users. Staff's negotiated a professional service agreement with Garver in the amount of $461,800 for design services, surveying, geotech services, and building services for the terminal building. Garver LLC is the airport's engineer of record and was selected via competitive process. This choice offers the most experienced team fully cognizant of FAA requirements for projects at Skylark Field. This project's funded through the CO bond with no impact to the Aviation Department operating fund or fund balance. These are your alternatives. And the recommendation is that the council approve the professional service agreement with Garver in the amount of $461,800 and authorize city manager as designee to execute all agreement documents and any and all amendments or actions set within the amounts of federal and state and local law. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First question I have is, does this open up more doors for FAA grants for that facility, for that field now? Or
Well, I will tell you that we are in the process. We've applied for several other grants that are competitive of nature. And so the possibility of getting more grant funding for this project is something that we're working on.
and then with this new building, what without going in too much detail, what does this give us now for that airfield, considering what it's been?
Well, like I stated in the presentation, I ran a GA airport for 25 years before I came to Killeen. When businesses in the industry want to come to your airport, they're not flying in on commercial. They're flying in on the private aircraft. The first impression they get of your community is that FBO building. So can I quantify what the benefits are going to be? No, but I can tell you from experience that that is a big part of economic development, is having a nice airport for people to fly in. It also shows businesses in the industry that you're serious about investing. In other words, if they're going to invest in your community, they want to see that you've invested in your own community. And what we've got out there now is a little cinder block building, about 850, 900 square feet, that's in bad shape. So I think in the long run, I can't quantify your question, but in the long run, I think it's going to reap benefits, maybe for the city, and maybe in the short term, but for sure in the long term, as we tie that with other economic development initiatives.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I've seen in other cities where when they have two airports that does exactly that, and those cities kind of set the pace for the regions that they're in. So I think you're setting
Well,
us up.
I can tell you, I come from a city of about 18,000 people, and I built one 20 years ago that was far and above what anything we have at Skylark currently. And that's a big deal for GA airports, how they fully functional. It's not about the NAS necessarily, it's about the function.
Right.
And not only do we not have the niceties, but we just don't have the function.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. This is great to see we're getting to this point. How long might the design process take?
Well, the design process is going to take about 8 months. Like I said, we're waiting on some extra money, hopefully from the FAA, through the ATP, the Airport Terminal Program, which is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And if we get some extra money, we'll do some more things, which will extend the design a little bit. But right now, we're looking at about an eight-month design period.
Gotcha.
And we're already working on it.
Outstanding. The other question I had, the proposed square footage for this building. I understand the existing building is 800 square feet or so. How large might this building be?
Well, again, it depends on the amount of grant money I end up with. Right now, we're targeting somewhere between 2,500 square feet. If I get the money that I'm looking at, we're looking at approximately a 3,000 square foot building, and also doing some ramp and lighting improvements, doing some things which are part of the grant, which would be EV charging for vehicles, as well as EV charging and infrastructure for electric aircraft.
Outstanding.
So
Thank you for that.
it all depends on if we get, in fact, we're applied for 2 other grants, so it all depends on how much money we end up getting in.
Very good. Thank you.
At a very minimum, the city's going to get a very nice 22 to 2,500 square foot GA terminal, and hopefully more than that.
Thank you for that update. And you said a key term, which was first impression, and we want these folks to have a great first impression when they fly into the city of Killeen. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Mayor Pro Tem Cobb.
Good evening, Mr. Wilson, Mayor and council members. I get excited when I hear that something new and growth is going to occur. That's the time when I look around in this room and I expect to see some smiles, because that's really good. I love the idea of the grants that we use and that we receive through the airport and the growth that we're seeing. Thank you so much. And if there's anything that I can do to help or to come out and do something, let me know, because you know what? I'm excited because it's going to happen. We're going to get that grant. I'm thinking in the positive going into the new year, how we're going to build and how things are going to become great. So what a great lecture, and to let us know in presentation and letting us know that we're going to grow. I have no negativity in that. I can't wait to go to the 2,200 square foot building that's going to have hangars and restaurants, and we're going to have a good time. I'm going to add a restaurant too, because we got to eat. That's an impression too. When you get off that plane, you get your hanger in there. I want me a hot dog. So we're going to have someone right there having hot dogs and some flowers, and we're going to have a room where we can go and have a meeting. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Wilson, thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 23197, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing a professional services agreement with Central Texas Alcohol Rehabilitation Center for substance abuse disorder counseling and treatment services in an amount of $143,130.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Ms. McNair. There were some questions asked by Mr. Price. I'm not sure if you heard the questions that he asked. No, I didn't. Okay. All right, maybe it'll be in the presentation. Good evening. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager, and Assistant City Manager. This resolution is for Syntex. I'll go through the background. On December 13th, 2022, City Council appropriated $70,000 of ARPA funding for substance use counseling and treatment in support of the Homeless and Mental Health Strategic Plan. The Homeless and Mental Health Strategic Plan was developed to reduce and address the duration and frequency of homelessness within Bell County and was adopted by council in February of 2023. A major recommendation with the clinical tracks is intensive mental health and substance use disorder and treatment. On March 27, 2023, an initial agreement was executed with Syntex ARC in the amount of $20,000. An amendment to the agreement was approved in May of 2023 for a total of $70,000. The funding supported 2 scholarship beds for up to 90 days of substance use counseling and treatment. The current agreement will expire with the final expenditure of ARPA funding, which is approximately $3,300. The initial agreement helped 3 clients, including 1 veteran, to exit homelessness. The time spent in homelessness for the 3 clients was 3, 5, and 16 plus years. 1 received a special housing voucher, 1 is awaiting a housing voucher, and 1 is awaiting an assisted living arrangement to be secured. The staff there was able to help an individual secure SSDI benefits, Medicare, and at least 1 bank account was established. The City of Killeen is a recipient of funds from the State of Texas opioid abatement settlement and may utilize the funds to address substance use disorder. The total settlement amount for Killeen is $535,650. An initial disbursement of $168,151 has been received by the city, and the remaining balance will be dispersed in varying payments annually over a period of 18 years. What we are proposing in the new agreement is to fund Syntex ARC with $143,130 of the opioid money for the continuation of treatment for individuals who do not have insurance.
Ms. McNair,
Yes.
you want to advance your slides.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you. I'll just read from here now. That makes it easier. Will allow for the continuation of treatment for individuals who do not have insurance coverage for substance use counseling, treatment, and comprehensive wraparound services, and preparing them for long-term self-sufficiency and independence. The new contract terms, the 2 items that stand out from the previous is the amount for $143,000, and then the term for treatment will be increased for up to 180 days. The alternatives are for council not to approve the agreement with Syntex ARC in the amount of $143,130, or to approve the agreement with Syntex ARC. We recommend that the city manager is authorized or his designee to execute the professional services agreement with Syntex ARC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question. How
Yes.
are residents selected to participate in this program?
So residents from Killeen are referred by our homeless outreach team, and I believe, Sergeant Kyle Moore is here. He and his staff refer both.
Yes, sir. Sergeant, could you come up, please? Don't ask this question. And yes, it is Sergeant Moore team. Yes, sir. Would you please, I think that was one of the questions, the process, the diversity of the program. Could you please explain the process on how a resident is selected?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
It's not too much of a lengthy process. Recommendation is under 3 years of homelessness. And once I get them, we do an intake, run them through some screening and see what their plans are to move forward with themselves, see if they have the desire to move forward and get out of homelessness. Once we get all that information, we set up a meeting with Syntex ARC and myself. We go through, and it's not really an interview, but it's an interview style process that we go through to see if they're going to fit what we're trying to accomplish with them.
Okay, so basically, the program is open to anyone that would like to participate in it,
Absolutely.
if they want to change their lifestyle.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Mr. Price had asked about working with SAMHSA, but my understanding, that's a federal agency, the substance abuse. I'll look up the acronym. And that may more apply to the later presentation that you have. The question that I had was, how many beds and for how long will the 140?
It will be 2 beds.
Okay.
And up to 180 days, but that doesn't mean that it will just be 2 individuals. We may have some participants who exit prior to 180 days, so the final numbers, as far as the number of clients that would have been assisted, would not be actualized until the end of the funding period.
And just like the previous ones, they could also get other funding that will open it up to some other folks?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sergeant Moore, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything.
No, I just want to say that that's huge.
You have to speak in the mic if you're going to give a comment.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
No, I just want to say Evan did a great job explaining the process, but for those of you guys who don't understand how huge that is, when you come across people that need assistance with rehab and things of that nature. So it just opens another avenue, and we're appreciative of that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions? All right. Oh, Mayor Pro Tem.
In public health, and it doesn't have anything to do, because sometimes I get my job kind of confused as being a public health nurse. SANSA is a government agency that goes into, it is not something that we have to work after. We don't have those grants, if we don't have anything that's dealing with SANSA. However, they have a national hotline that people can call in reference to abuse, alcohol, and to have those places. But as far as everyday activities, if we don't have those grants, I know that I only had to use it if it was a national day. If we were celebrating something that dealt with alcohol, they may put out, this is a national day. SAMHSA and some of the organizations that are listed on the SAMHSA would use it. But it is grant related if we have those grants. And whenever you use a grant such as SAMHSA, they will give you governing policies that we have to follow, just like with any other grants. I'm just excited. I think Mrs. Tiffany and Mr. Kyle and Mr. Crossley did an excellent job in explaining the programs that we're using with. And I'm sure if they get something on the SAMHSA, they'll be more than happy to share that information with you. But every grant and everything that you have has a government opportunity when it deals with health care, and it gives you those points of control and the things that we have to do, but always honest, fair, and just.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you. Just a quick question. So this is, wonderful. We talked about 2 beds originally, and then we ended up helping 3 people all together. This is a huge thing that should be commended. And then there's also a process that they're going through with regards to their housing, the bank account. My question is the continued follow-up, just to make sure, like, if we're tracking our metrics for the future, how far along or when do we stop tracking their success? What does that cutoff period look like? And then and recidivism, like, are we planning to control that or track that? We can't control it, but are we planning to track that as well?
So Syntec, they actually are tracking and keeping up with the clients that have recently exited homelessness and exited their facility. As far as a re-entry into homelessness or a treatment facility, that's something that they will be able to track for us as well. Mr. Eric has been great with giving us the information that we need to move forward and actually being very hands-on with the clients that are referred by the city of Killeen.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I think this is an excellent program that's been put in place. I think it was Assistant City Manager, seeing Mr. Cagle, Sergeant Moore. They all brought about this program. I think it was last year, and some council members have had the opportunity to visit the site, and I had the opportunity, and I think it's money well spent, especially when it's enhancing the quality of life of someone that want a fresh start. So I commend you and your staff for all you do in reference to bringing grants into the city of Killeen to help our unsheltered population, also just our residents that do not have insurance to receive those services. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 23198, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement carpet at the Killeen Civic and Conference Center from McCoy Rockford, a reseller of J&J Flooring, and EF Contract Engineered Floors, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $263,392.05.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Ms. McNair.
Thank you. The carpet currently installed at the Killeen Civic and Conference Center, K3C, is not rated for high traffic impact. After only 8 years, the carpet is showing excessive stains, wear, and tear across the entire facility. The stains are embedded and do not come out even when professional steaming is applied to this carpet surfaces. The flooring needs to be replaced to bring the building up to standards required by the type of customers we are currently attracting and those we anticipate attracting. The current carpeting is becoming a safety issue with several pulls and tears occurring. I saw some of them myself with the lifting up of several corners of the pieces. On July 3rd, 2023, K3C received one quote from a vendor on tips in the amount of $263,392.05. The other quote was in the amount of $361,994.69. The higher quote was from a vendor not affiliated with Tips USA. Additionally, the price difference between the quotes was $98,602. Due to the significant price difference, K3C staff decided to move forward with the McCoy Rockford and reseller of J&J and EF Contract Engineer Floor, LLC. McCoy Rockford and reseller of J&J and EF Contract Engineer Floor, LLC conforms to city policy based on their TIPS contract. The purchase will utilize TIPS Cooperative Contract Number 20110201. Purchases made through a cooperative contract are exempt from the competitive bidding process as stated in the Texas Local Government Code, Section 271.102. How do you pronounce this? Does it matter? Kinetex, I'm gonna make it up. Kinetex is an advanced textile composite flooring that combines key attributes of soft surface floor covering with the long wearing performance that we want. Durability, the reference service life of Kinetex carpet tile is assumed to be 15 years. Given the life of the products under consideration, 4 replacements of the product are required to cover the estimated service life of K3C, which is 75 years. Health, Kinetex minimizes air particulates. I think I just want to say the carpet that we're proposing. Minimizes air particulates that trigger allergies and cause infections. Maintenance is stain resistant. It is safe for high traffic and sustainability. It contains 45% post-consumer content. Each contains about 27 plastic water bottles. This is a comparison of the life cycle of different flooring types, vinyl composite tile, rubber, luxury vinyl tile, and the proposed materials that we want to use. And you see ours cost less than the others that are proposed. And this is, I don't know how well you all can see it, but this is the proposed color and style. There are 2 different styles and 3 colors on each tile with quarter turns. So that means as you turn, you can put together a wide border if you want, or you can just have some pattern, or you can decide to have just some straight lines or make it look more like a brick lane. The illustration on the next slide is better, but this is the schedule for the installation, and we're going to start January 29th. Amanda and her team, they were able with the schedule to get in touch with some clients who have reserved rooms in K3C and actually reschedule some of their events to allow us to move according to the schedule we have set here. Phase 1 is the pink, and that's ballrooms A and B. Phase 2 is the hallway and the yellow room, yellow rose. And we have the phases color-coded for you to take a look at right there. And this will be from the end of January through mid-March for full installation. So the alternatives are: do not approve the purchase of the new carpeting, approve the purchase of the replacement carpeting from another vendor, or approve the purchase of the new carpet from McCoy Rockford and reseller of J&J and EF Contract Engineer Floor LLC in the amount of $263,392.05. Staff recommends the latter, which is the purchase of the carpet from McCoy Rockford and reseller of J&J for $263,392.05.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. The question I have, is the carpet replacement going to be done in conjunction with the other improvements to the Civic Center? I think we approved, some doors, AC, AV, some other things
Yes.
like that.
Yes, this is not pulling funding from any other initiative to upgrade anything at the K3C. This is separate.
Sure. And when might all the improvements be complete? Will they all likely be completed by the summer, similar to the carpet, or?
No, because the HVAC is probably going to take us through the end of 2024.
Okay.
And this will be complete first quarter of 2024.
Okay, gotcha. But the doors and the AV equipment,
The doors are done.
Oh, they're done,
That was
okay.
with ARPA. Yeah,
Gotcha,
that's
okay.
done. The AV equipment, that's done as well.
very good. Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Adams.
Ms. McNair, thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. McNair, you mentioned that you moved some other folks around. What would be the capacity of the Civic Center during not the number capacity, ability to still hold events? And that's only a 3-month period, correct? Okay.
Amanda Wilkinson is the director of K3C, and she can answer that question better than I. Welcome.
Well, there are other events that will be happening during the different phases. Like I don't have the events written down, but phase 1, only Yellow Rose, which used to be meeting room 1 and 2, and the hallways is going to be done. So we're still able to book ballroom A and B, C, Longhorn, and Lone Star Room, and Chisholm Trail.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. Thank you, both ladies. Thank you. Madam Secretary.
RS 23199, consider a memorandum resolution accepting the FY 2023 BJA Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, JAG Grant, and approving an interlocal agreement with the City of Temple and Bell County.
Good evening, Chief Lopez.
Hey, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council Members, City Manager. Tonight, I'm here to present the seek acceptance of the 2023 JAG grant. The Killeen Police Department has applied for and been awarded the 2023 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, we call JAG. Each year, the City of Killeen has entered into an interlocal agreement with Bell County and the City of Temple to share the funds. There are no matching fund requirements for this grant. This year, the total JAG award was $92,057, and our portion is $46,489. As you can see, City of Temple gets a portion, and the county gets a portion. Under the terms of the agreement, the City of Killeen is responsible for the administration of the funds, including distributing the funds, monitoring the award, submitting performance reports and assessment data, and providing ongoing assistance to subrecipients of the funds. KPD will utilize these funds towards the purchase of a software for the real-time crime center. Our alternatives is accept the grant funds and enter into a local agreement as presented, or decline the awarded funding. And staff recommends that City Council approve the acceptance of the 2023 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant through the Killeen Department on behalf of all parties involved. The city manager is designated to sign the interlocal agreement and to permit the Killeen Police Department to allocate and administer the duties required by the grant under the oversight of the City Finance Department. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. There are no questions for you. Madam Secretary.
RS 23200, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the expenditure of JAG grant funds to purchase Fusus Enterprise Package software from Fusus Inc. in an amount of $125,000 per year for 5 years.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Chief Lopez.
Good evening. Thank you again. Tonight, I stand before you seeking approval to move forward with the establishment of the first real-time crime center in Bell County. Now, in 2021, the Killeen Police Department began exploring the idea of building a real-time crime center in Killeen. And as I stated before, a real-time crime center offers numerous benefits, as I outlined in this presentation. But another thing we have to consider is that the population growth for Killeen. If we establish a real-time crime center, it could help law enforcement keep pace with the increasing demands of public safety services. The ability to analyze and respond to incidents in real time becomes crucial in a growing community. Another thing, crime rate and trends. KPD will be able to use this software in this facility to analyze crime patterns so we can provide a better response for our citizens. Another reason not listed here is proximity to other metropolitan areas like Copps Cove, Harker Heights, Nolanville, Temple, all down the road. Killeen's proximity to all these metropolitan areas might make it a hub for various criminal activities. We all know that criminals are very transit. They commit a crime in Killeen, then they jump over to Harker Heights, Nolanville, so forth. So with this software, we'll be able to track and communicate with other departments in our area to inform them of the trends that we observe. Now, the Real-Time Crime Center, the request for the night is for the software for the Real-Time Crime Center, but we also need a physical structure, which is a separate item that I'm going to bring to council in the very near future. The approximate cost is it went up $100,000 from my last presentation. It's going to be about $200,000 to $500,000. And the city the IT, Mr. Resto and his team is aware of the requirements, and they're helping us currently right now to write the specs to build out the Real-Time Crime Center. And RTCC will be staffed 24 hours a day by one supervisor and 2 call takers. Now, one big concern about the Real-Time Crime Center is privacy rights. And for those reasons, I coordinated 4 town hall events with members of the community. I also met with LULAC and the NAACP, and I'm trying to arrange a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce and Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, but those meetings haven't come to fruition yet, but we are working on it. But since October, we held 4 town halls. One's on the 26th, on the 9th, and on the November 9th and November 16th. I also introduced the concept during the council's town hall meeting that we had. So that's 4 times that we met with the citizens to talk about the Real-Time Crime Center and the benefits of it. We also put out another surveys to allow citizens to provide their input and concerns on this project. Unfortunately, we only had 16, excuse me. But overall, 87% of them stated that they would like to establish a Real-Time Crime Center. There were very positive comments, and we put the survey out in English and Spanish so we could reach a lot of members of the community. Now, the biggest concern overall from various citizens and business members that I talked to when we had those town halls were respecting privacy concerns of the citizens, which is a legit concern for the citizens. But this program, I have to stress that this program will always allow the camera owners to retain control of their cameras. At no point will we circumvent the 4th Amendment and just arbitrarily turn on somebody's camera to, seek access to it. The 4th Amendment still applies in all these cases. Building a security network will enable officers to understand unfolding situations and only intervene when necessary with appropriate use of force. Remote security monitoring and the ability to digitally send incident footage to the police department will reduce unnecessary contact between police officers and members of the public and help result in better public safety concerns. And the Community Connect program, which is part of the FUSIS software package, will increase physical safety for residents and businesses, reduce expenditures on property damage, aid in insurance claims, and increase the efficiency of the city security services. Now, FUSIS, we sought a sole source compliance exemption, and the city granted it. And the reason they did, because FUSIS is the only vendor that has a common operating platform that does not require a complete replacement of our video systems. A lot of the times when you purchase new technology, you have to redo your whole infrastructure when it comes to cameras and other buildings. Fusus will allow us to work within the system that we currently have, so we don't have the additional costs with this. So Judith and her team approved the sole source compliance request, and JAG grant funding will be used to purchase the one-year subscription of $125,000, and for the 4 remaining years, we will budget it within the budget that we currently have. Alternatives is to approve the use of the JAG funds to pay the cost of the Fusus software subscription for the Real-Time Crime Center, or disapprove it. And we recommend that the staff approve it. If I could add one thing, online we have Chief Gay, who's the Fusus representative, in case you have any technical questions that I can't answer, he'll be able to answer it. So he and his team online in case you have any technical questions.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Segar.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for bringing this forward. I think that, there's been a long time since we needed something like that, and I know that it's been talked about in the past. I visited a lot of cities in the past who had that, and I think that the issue when it's been mentioned has always been the price tag, and I think that we looked at it as a whole. We looked at it with the center, with the building, and we were talking about millions of dollars. And I think what you've done is you brought it forth in smaller chunks. And I think that that's much better because, we can do it this way and then see how effective it is. And I think that, as we all know, there's a huge need in our city. The number one issue is always crime. And if it is successful and if it targets the certain areas that we see the most crime, and I know you mentioned at one of your briefings like car thefts or things like that, but if we're able to target that, by all means, and take it a step at a time and then just keep adding, who knows, in the future, I think that we will see a nice center that will have a tremendous impact on what has always seemed to be the number one issue here in our city, which is the crime. And so I do appreciate it. I think that this is a great program, and I commend you for bringing it forward, especially the way you're doing it.
If I could add one more thing that I forgot to mention, that this program, the $125,000, will allow us to expand our cameras up to 1,500 cameras. Right now, we currently have about 700-something cameras, so we still have room to grow for the future. Yeah. A lot of times when you buy new technology, you outgrow it within a year or two. This program will allow us to expand and keep it at least 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
And I think it's important because you mentioned this before, and I think the big concern is always that, when you have a camera and the freedom, but I think, you mentioned it was all volunteer, they get to decide if they want, but I think that its effectiveness is going to go a long way. And as people start seeing that, it does help. And I think right now with so much technology out there, when we go to the events and all that, you see it everywhere. That's what a lot of cities are using, because especially now where it's hard to get more police officers out in the street, we got to use technology as best as we can. And so I think that this is definitely in the right direction. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Segar. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Chief. I know we talked briefly about this. Also, you're able to connect with your intelligence networks as well, and with the regional system with this?
Yes, sir. Currently, we're going to connect with our own internal systems, but it does have the capabilities. If the other agencies allow us to tap into their systems, this software will allow us to do that.
Okay, and then you mentioned the $125,000 discount. Is that over the first subscription or just the first year?
The regular price is $150,000, but if we approve this purchase, Fusus has agreed to take off the $25,000 for each year of a 5-year contract, which is a saving $125,000.
Okay, thank you. And I think I mentioned too, brought it up in the Crime Solutions Committee. The committee endorses and recommends the council does approve it. And I also think this is a key aspect of community policing, because now instead of people posting pictures of crime on Facebook and give them to the people that can actually use them, you don't have to take that additional step to go look at Facebook to see whether something happened. And if I'm not mistaken, this is also able to link into the Ring systems as well, ADT systems and what have you, if the resident allows it to?
That's, yeah, well, Mr. Chief Gay could probably answer that question about the Ring solution. Mr. Chief Gay, are you online?
Absolutely. How are you doing tonight, Mayor and Council?
Good evening, sir.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In reference to Ring, absolutely, they can be a registrant, and then they can provide the video to the police department immediately. Some of the other solutions out there that provide doorbell cameras can actually provide an actual live feed. So absolutely, in both cases, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adam. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Okay, again, thank you for this proactive measure. Just a quick question on the setup of this. So there's not a lot of requirement regarding infrastructure, but how long from the time that we have actually approved, you've given the green light to go, will it take to set up this system?
Well, the software would take about 90 to 120 days to build it out and, build up the systems and the software. The physical structure, we plan to bring RFP, RFQ, whatever we call terminology we use here, and we're going to accept bids starting in January, and then we have to see forward. So I anticipate maybe September, October for the physical structure to be built, but we still could use the software without that the real-time content build out. But it makes it more functional when we build the whole thing out, so we can see all the maps online at one time.
And then the training for your officers is pretty user-friendly, and they'll go through, how long is the training for them for this software, or whoever's going to be operating these systems?
Chief Gay provides the training for that, and his team.
Yeah, so for your super admins, it's about a 4-hour training. And then for all the other users, it's about 2 hours. We do provide a web-based training, so it makes it easily accessible to the employees. But we do also provide ongoing training to make sure people are keeping up with the products as we continue to add features and functionality.
Thank you.
And you speak about the training, if I can add about the training, I'm also, I reached out to Lexington, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia, and Shreveport, Louisiana. They're currently using the Fusus package, so we're gonna piggyback on their training in order to build our systems and our training platform.
Awesome, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Chief. I just want to say thank you for the dedicated town halls to the Fusus system, giving our citizens a chance to get clarity, ask questions, and also challenge it to get the questions they need to have answered. We remain in support of the development of the Crime Center. I know it's been in works for a couple years now, but it's good to see that it's eventually getting developed to where it needs to be. But I do think it was appropriate how it was rolled out. Again, we had several town halls. The council's been thoroughly briefed on it, and I trust it's going to be something to benefit our city in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Chief, for the presentation. I got a two-part question, if you can help me out with it. First part of it is, how are these, and this may be for our online consultant, how are the cameras accessed? Or is it a remote connection? Do the cameras need to be hardwired? Are they Wi-Fi? Or how would the Fusus connect to somebody's camera at their house if they give them permission?
Let me, go ahead, Troy, you can do that. You're better answering that.
Sure, absolutely. So we actually provide several type of core devices. It's a small device, the smallest being the size of a Cartadex. It works in what we call a store and forward methodology, meaning is that the device and the recording actually stays at the location, and it's only accessed when the police department needs it. And at that point, it actually streams to AWS Cloud, GovCloud, and then at that point, that's where it's accessed. It's in a CGIS environment where the police department can access it. Does that answer your question, council member?
Yes, sir. I guess the other part of that is if you're in cooperation with a business owner who has CCTV and they want to be part of this program and allow you to access their cameras real time, how does that work? If you get a call about a crime, you can turn it on and see what they see?
Absolutely. That's the core device that I explained. That is how we consider the magic. How it works is although it's storing and it provides anywhere from 2 to 4 days worth of access for storage, but it does, as soon as the police department want access to that information, it provides that live streaming to the police department. So you and I, even though it's staying there on the device until it's accessed, it's within milliseconds when someone requests it, it's providing that live feed.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Councilmember Alvarez. Councilmember Adams, this your second time?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. The follow-up question to, is the training is going to be train the trainer?
Councilmember Adams has the floor.
Is there going to be a train the trainer set up for, so you have folks on the ground after Fuses trains them that can train everyone else, or does Fuses have to come back and train?
Initially, the training is going to be done by Fuses.
Okay.
But then, as we progress and build the real-time crime center and realize what capabilities we could use and exploit, then we do our own train the trainer internally.
Okay. And then will this be, I know with some systems, the mobile data units in each of the cars, will your patrols have access to any of this?
The software?
The software, it will be on the mobile units?
Well,
Or just the RTC?
Just the RTC.
Okay.
But we could push data down to the mobile units in the police cars from the real-time crime
Got
center.
it. Okay. And then the last question is access. I know a lot of businesses, like I know one organization I'm part of, we have MBRs, and we store up to 7 days of recording. Will you be able to, with FUSA, will you be able to tap remotely into the old recordings if permitted?
I can try to answer this question. It all depends on because there's so many different security devices and camera systems throughout the city. Costco has 50 surveillance systems. Sands may have 20, 25. So it all depends on the system the owner of the camera system currently has and what parameters they have. So Troy, you could add to that.
Absolutely. So that core device is really, if you think about it, it's replicating what's on your DVR. So if you have 100% control of the number of days that you allow the department to have access to that information. So if you decide it to be 2 days, then the police department would be able to go back 2 days on that device and gather evidence on that particular device.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Sir, I have one quick question.
Thank you, Councilmember
The
Adams.
only persons that are going to be able to use this information, to use the process, are sworn officers who have taken the oath to serve. There will be no outside volunteers who come from committees and everywhere and decide they want to help the police department, correct?
No, you're right, 100% correct. Only the supervisor inside the real-time crime center and the call takers will be able to access that information.
I just wanted to ensure that the community knew that our officers are going to take care of this. Thank you.
Anybody else on the council? Well, Chief Lopez, once again, the council have spoke highly of this program. The real-time crime center is needed for real time, and the only thing we have to continue is to do community outreach, because this program is as successful as the trust that the people, the resident have and business owner have in the program. So we have to continue to, and you're doing a great job. I'm really extremely excited to attend one of your town hall meetings with the public input, because we had our town hall meeting. So I'm really excited about what you're doing and where this police department and direction we're headed. So thank you. And Mr. Troy, thank you for zooming in tonight to answer questions from the council.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, sir. Our public hearing will be held on December 12th, 2023. Madam Secretary, public hearing.
PH 23061, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending Chapter 31 of the Killeen Code of Ordinances, providing for amendments to the city's architectural and site design standards and amending the building setbacks in single-family residential zoning districts.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Mrs. Mesher.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you tonight is to discuss proposed changes to the architectural and site design standards. So as you know, on August 15th, we presented to Council with proposed changes to the standards, and during that meeting, we were directed to go back and hold some more stakeholder meetings in order to reach a consensus regarding the proposed amendments. So stakeholder meetings were held on September 11th, September 19th, and October 5th. We then brought the proposed changes back to you on October 17th during a workshop, and we were directed to bring the ordinance forward to you as presented. So, as I said, the intent of this ordinance was really to reach consensus with the development community, and so we've made a number of changes to the ordinance, and I'm going to go through those. So, bear with me. The first major change to the ordinance is a change to the appeal process. So based on input from the stakeholders, the appeal process has been revised to allow staff to approve special exceptions administratively, but only if a proposed building meets the intent, if not the letter, of the standards. The applicant can appeal that staff determination to the Zoning Board of Adjustment through the special exception process. And this proposed change is one that both staff and the stakeholders felt strongly would expedite the process and help make it easier for the applicant to gain approval of their project. So we're also recommending changes to the front and side setbacks in single-family districts. With regard to the front setbacks, we're recommending that the front setback in R1 and SF2, which are single-family districts, be reduced from 25 feet to 20 feet. This was something that was well-received and asked for by the development community, and that's another way to just enhance the character of the streetscape and give home builders a little more flexibility with what they do with their lot. We're also recommending changing the side setback in R1 from 7 feet to 5 feet, so that essentially homes would be a little bit closer together and would ultimately reduce costs for the developers and create a little more density. And that was another thing that was asked for by the stakeholders. With regard to the applicability and exemptions of the ordinance, we're recommending that some additional exemptions be added to the standards. So for residential development, we're recommending 3 exemptions. The first is to exempt accessory buildings smaller than 200 square feet. So those would be your sheds, your accessory buildings, where you keep your lawn equipment and that sort of thing, would be exempted from the ordinance. Manufactured homes within an established manufactured home park would be exempt from the ordinance, and additions to existing homes. We had a lot of discussion with the stakeholder group about the repetition standard. So the proposed repetition standard now provides 2 separate, we've separated the standards for single family and 2-family. The language, however, is the same. So for both single family and 2-family, it would state that single family homes and 2-family homes of the same elevation shall not be placed within 2 lots on the same side of the street or directly across the street from one another. So this is a representation of what that would look like. So you can see the language as proposed would require 3 unique elevations in order to meet it. Currently, Section 31902 states that for purposes of this section, elevations shall be substantially different in terms of shape, massing, and form. The same elevation with different materials, different architectural features, or different fenestrations shall not be considered different elevations for purposes of this section. And we had a lot of discussion about it, and ultimately it was agreed that this language should stay the same. So that's, as drafted, the ordinance would leave this language in place. So I have a couple of slides that just sort of represent the what we're talking about when we talk about substantially different elevations, right? So these are two examples of, this is a home builder that provides the same floor plan with different elevation options. So this home would have the exact same floor plan on the interior, but has a different enough elevation that you can't tell from the street that it's the same house. So these would be considered significantly different elevations. This is an example of two homes that are identical on the inside, and then there are minor changes to the exterior, but these would not be considered significantly different elevations. And in working through these issues with the stakeholders, everybody was sort of in agreement that this doesn't constitute a significantly different design. Again, two homes, same floor plan, not significantly different elevations. These are two duplexes that have the same floor plan but do have significantly different elevations. So this is just intended to sort of give you an understanding of what we're talking about when we say what is different enough, right? It's hard to quantify that in words. So we found sort of working through this that pictures are really critical to sort of understand the intent behind the ordinance. Again, two elevations, not significantly different. These are significantly different, not significantly different, so you get the idea. We spent a lot of time looking at, how different is different enough, and so really putting pictures with this presentation is really meant to sort of be a reference for us to go back to over time. With regard to the repetition standard, we're also recommending adding some clarifying language to section 31902. So the clarifying language includes statements that homes of the same floor plan may be repeated, but only if the roof lines and elevations are noticeably different from one another. So again, we've sort of clarified what we mean by noticeably different and then reiterated that they can be the same floor plan as long as the elevation is different enough to make it look like two different houses. Also a statement that mirrored elevations are not considered different for purposes of the section, and that a developer or home builder may seek pre-approval of proposed elevations prior to submitting permit applications. And this is important because the intent of that section is to help speed up the approval process and allow home builders and developers to come and get pre-approval for an entire section of a subdivision all at once and say, we're gonna put this house here, and we're gonna put this house there, and then there's no question when it comes time to pull the permit. So they can get through that process quickly. With regard to residential garages, we are proposing to add language allowing three-car garages to comprise up to 60% of the front elevation if a third-car garage is proposed, as long as that third car is set back at least 12 inches. So right now, the provision is that the garage can't comprise more than 50% of the front of the home. That's a little difficult to meet if you're proposing a three-car garage. We're saying three-car garages can take up to 60% of the front elevation as long as the third car is recessed. Architectural elements, we've made a number of changes to section 31904 to make the standards easier to meet. We made the requirements for duplexes and single-family structures different. So as proposed, a single-family home must provide 5 architectural elements, and duplexes need to provide only 4 architectural elements. We also added language allowing duplicate credit if multiple architectural features are provided. Separate options were created for a covered entry as opposed to a covered front porch. There was a lot of discussion with the stakeholder group about what constitutes a porch and how big does it need to be considered a porch, and what's the difference between a porch and a covered stoop, essentially. So what we're saying here is that a covered front entry, which is basically just the area right in front of the front door, if it's covered, counts as one option on the menu. But if you provide a porch, which is essentially it would be a bigger area, it would count as double credit as long as the porch is at least 40 square feet. We added language to the covered front porch, allowing it to count as 2 options. And the discussion there was really, there's no incentive for a home builder to provide a true, meaningful front porch because it's expensive. So what we did was we just said, well, we'll increase the credit that you get if you do that. We added an option for eyebrow roofs over windows or garage doors to the list of menu options. That was something that was suggested by the stakeholder group. And added separate options for garage doors with windows versus garage doors with decorative hardware. Currently, the upgraded garage doors have to have both windows and hardware. Now we're saying windows counts as one option and hardware counts as another option. So if you do both, you get credit for 2 items on the menu. With regard to applicability and exemptions for non-residential, we added additional exemptions for non-residential, including properties that are zoned M1 or M2. So currently, the standards apply to all non-residential development, commercial and industrial. So what we're saying is if it's zoned M1 or M2, it's exempt from the ordinance. We also add an exemption for accessory buildings that are 800 square feet or less. We provided an exemption for temporary or portable buildings erected by or for a governmental agency or school district. This would include things like portable school buildings, transitional or temporary housing, things like the Sprung Building, for example, and temporary construction trailers. So this is taking into consideration there are some things that just won't meet the architectural standards. We also made some changes to the non-residential site design standards to make them easier to meet. And the number of required architectural elements for non-residential buildings was reduced from 4 to 3, and additional options were added to the list of choices. With regard to articulation, the maximum uninterrupted length for a non-residential building was reduced from 30 feet to 20 feet. And the minimum depth of offsets was reduced from 18 to 6 inches. So this keeps the intent of the articulation standard, but again, makes it a little bit easier to meet. With regard to the vertical articulation, an additional option was added for buildings with 2 different roofs or parapet heights. Language was added requiring a parapet wall on the front and side elevations only, but not the rear. And an option was added for arched windows or entrances, and the minimum transparency percentage was reduced from 75 to 50%. We also added language clarifying that the percentage of transparency is based on the horizontal length of the building, not the area of the elevation. So again, all of these changes are intended to make the standards easier to meet. The minimum slope for a pitched roof was reduced from 6/12 to 4/12, and language was added to provide credit for placing the building near to the front property line in order to create a more urban form. And finally, language was added to provide credit for inclusion of pedestrian-oriented space in front of a building. So that's a lot, but these are, again, all changes that are intended to make these standards easier to meet and make the language a little bit clearer and easier for everyone to understand. So with that, we're recommending approval of the ordinance as presented. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the proposed changes on November 6th and ultimately recommended disapproval of the proposed changes by a vote of 4 to 2. So in accordance with Section 3139, this will require a 3/4 majority vote. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Ms. Messer.
Good evening.
I think everyone can agree that it's been a long time coming in relation to this ordinance. I want to thank you and your team for the incorporation of input and the time and effort put into this. I know there were several rounds about it. My own little personal gripe would be the side yard setbacks. However, I do understand the need for reduction in cost and increasing density. Ultimately, while I can appreciate the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, their recommendation, the City Council had called for additional stakeholder meetings with staff, which established, as we have here, clarity in the ordinance. In alignment with city staff's recommendation for approval, I recommend the City Council also approve the proposed changes to the ordinance to finally move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sagar.
Thank you, Mayor. And I concur. I think that, both sides have to get a little bit. And there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of communication, but also a lot of learning. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I think in a few those meetings, I learned quite a bit. But at the same time, we get to understand the building process. For example, is little changes can have a significant increase on construction costs. But when a house is appraised, and this is where, I do have experience in, a lot of times you don't get value for that. And so that's one of those aha moments. And it's like when we look at all these different changes and stuff, as small as they are, like patios and stuff, they look nice. And by all means, we want those. But sometimes in a certain place, it may increase the cost. So I like that it is an option. I'm sure if they have that opportunity to do it, by all means, because I think it will sell a house better. But if it increases the cost $5,000 or $10,000 in a specific, and you're not going to get that on an appraisal, then that's where sometimes it's a challenge. So I think that we did raise the standard, and I'm sure that in the future we'll continue to increase them, because by all means we want, a better place, more aesthetically pleasing, especially when it comes to housing. And I think that that'll continue on. So thank you and your staff, because I know you guys took a beating there for a while. And so, but you guys made it happen and stood firm and just compromised, and I commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you, and I concur with the gentleman. I won't belabor the point, but I just wanted to say that I'm very thankful for the staff for doing this. We did something that we hadn't done before, and it was painful at points, but it was much needed. When I was at NLC, that's the National League of Cities training that we went to, there's a lot of cities all across the United States that are kind of going through certain things that we're experiencing right now, growing pains, challenges with development and city relations, and it was interesting because a lot of them, we actually got to be the leaders, saying that our city staff, along with our stakeholders, were able to do these meetings and work together, and they were just now getting on that bandwagon. So we were kind of ahead of the curve. For a change, it was really nice to be able to say we've done it and we were successful. So again, thank you guys for the hard work. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Items for discussion for workshop. Council, you have 2 times to speak each for 5 minutes. Madam Secretary.
DS 23114, discuss the K-Tempo Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A grant.
Mr. Cagle.
I think we already had the comments from Councilmember Adams on this one
Okay.
tonight.
All right, thank you, sir. I saw your name beside it. Madam Secretary.
DS 23115, Homeless and Mental Health Strategic Plan updates.
Councilmember Adams, did you want to say something again? No, I didn't. Oh, okay. Councilwoman Gonzalez?
I just had a question, just a real quick question. If someone wants to get additional information on this, the question was asked about putting it on our agenda, but is it on our website? Where else can citizens find information about this particular information if they want to for the
Good.
public? Can we just restate that for them?
Good question.
Thank you.
There is, if I may, Madam Mayor, if there's on the K-Tempo site, they have a site specifically covering this, and I'll send to the communications so they have the link, put it on our site. so
Thank
that we
you,
can get to it.
Councilmember
And
Adams.
and they will be here next, on the 12th, to do their presentation as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams, for
Thanks.
taking that initiative, and thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez, for asking the question. Madam Secretary.
DS 23115, Homeless and Mental Health Strategic Plan updates.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome back.
So this presentation is going to be a look back on what the City of Killeen has done with the Homeless and Mental Health Strategic Plan, what progress has been made, and offers some ideas or recommendations on how to move forward. In March of 2021, the Killeen City Council issued a motion of direction for staff to work with the City of Temple on a homelessness strategic plan that would include measurable goals and strategies and identify existing countywide resources and service gaps. During the summer of 2021, both cities, along with Bell County representatives, worked with the Center for Justice and Mental Health Partnerships to develop a countywide needs assessment, which was completed in August of 2021. The assessment identified strengths and gaps in crises response as it relates to mental health and homelessness. July of 2023, both cities agreed and coordinated the request for their council appointments for the creation of an independent nonprofit, which was to be known as the Arbor of Hope, to coordinate, manage, and oversee countywide strategic action steps to reduce homelessness within Bell County. The board composition is described in the strategic plan. On August 2023, the city of Temple requested a meeting with the city of Killeen and Judge Blackburn of Bell County. City of Temple stated that concerns, quote, arise primarily from what appears to be a somewhat significant discrepancy in the levels of funding and progress between the facility in Temple, which has received $14 million in funding, and the developments in Killeen. When staff briefed Temple City Council regarding board appointments, there were reservations from their council about progressing with the formation of the countywide organization. So this slide and the next slide, the highlighted items that you will see will be to really focus in on what the city of Killeen has done. These are the 9 or 8 clinical tracks that were recommended countywide. So to develop and operate 9 clinical tracks within 3 focus areas across Bell County, I misspoke. These are the 8 recommendations for the county. And with that, the city of Killeen has established substance use disorder rehabilitation services, and we presented that earlier with the progress that was made with Syntex ARC. The next was to establish the Arbor of Hope nonprofit and coordinate with the countywide homelessness services. The city of Killeen back this past summer did appoint their members for those 3 designated spots. The information management, HIMSS, that was taking place, and that was to provide services, need to move from data tracking model to a true case management and service coordination. KPD Homeless Outreach Team completed HIMSS training and will be utilizing that for coordination of services. HIMSS allows for the input of information of persons being serviced so that there is not a duplication of the type of assistance that they've had, and also to track the assistance that they've received in the past. The 4th is to open the Bell County Diversion Center, followed by create a permanent supportive housing across the street from Central County Services Office in Temple. Of course, that would be Temple. Proactively source new housing of all types. City of Killeen submitted a proposal for the HUD Pro Housing Grant in November to fund the development and preservation of affordable housing. And those awards are going to be announced in January. Whenever possible, separate families with children from non-family single adults. And after becoming compliant with Martin v. Boise, have a zero tolerance approach to encampments. So of the 8, the city of Killeen has actually made progress on 4 of the countywide recommendations. These were the 3 recommendations for the city of Killeen: to create and develop Arbor of Hope West Campus, support the Homeless to House Village, integrate the Killeen Police Department's community engagement team with the Arbor of Hope West Campus operations. The progress on the 3 are the city of Killeen has designated local and federal funds totaling $2.757 million for the construction of the Arbor of Hope. In the parenthetical, we see reunification center. We'll get to that in a few more slides. The Department of Community Development has met with Cove House leadership and intends to provide $500,000 in the home ARP funds to support the Homeless to House Village, and the hot bus stop is pending. 4th, we have the Community Development Block Grant in amount of $94,000 that was approved for the hiring of 1 licensed master social worker. We did conduct interviews, and that person will be starting on December 18th. So in total, and I'll say this is the numbers you see in front of you, the 3.351, but this doesn't include any staff time that Killeen has put towards this and other funding that may have supported the production of the actual plan as well. So these are recommendations for Killeen and Temple, and this was to continue to support the Family Promise of Bell County's new operation. Family Promise is an organization that provides services to unhoused families with children. The location is based in Temple, however, services are provided throughout Bell County. The city of Killeen, to support this, has to have put something forward, and that was the appointing of those board members for the Arbor of Hope, to guide, implement, and support the homelessness and mental health strategic plan. Killeen intends to support the Family Promise Phase 2 transitional housing development and to offer office space within the reunification center. This timeline is just to illustrate what Killeen has done and the progress that was very regular. There were not extended periods of time where there was not something happening within the city of Killeen to move this plan forward. And that this takes us from the interlocal agreement being executed in January of 2022 up through July when this council did vote for the appointment for those 3 board members. So going forward on these next slides are recommendations, but I do want to iterate that these recommendations aren't new. They're the same. They're the same, but they're not, because the same would be that we would be moving forward with a partner in Temple and we would be having an Arbor of Hope. The not is that we can still move this forward, but we will be doing it solely as the city of Killeen. The city of Killeen will solicit requests for proposals to identify an established nonprofit for homelessness service provider to occupy the reunification center and to offer co-located services on the campus. This would include emergency shelter for unhoused individuals, office space for service providers, including clinic triage service, designated space for use as an emergency warming and cooling center, and mental health and substance abuse referrals. This is the site of the reunification center. You have Liberty Street, that is to the west. To the north, we have the cemetery. And so the reunification is there to the left, and the homeless to house site would be closer to the KISD Fleets building, I believe that is. This is a photo of what a Sprung Center will look like. The initial quote that the city received back in the spring from Sprung was for 2 buildings, one being 11,000 square feet, the other 6,000 approximately. The buildings can be constructed within 3 months, but there are some steps that need to take place with our engineering services division and going through P&Z to make sure that the zoning and the replatting is compliant and it works out for what we intend to do. The homelessness initiatives, the city, as I read the plan and knowing that the Arbor of Hope would not likely be eligible for some grants because they would be newly established. So it seems to me that both cities would be funding this, at least for the first few years. The city may establish a separate funding pool for homelessness services providers for operating and capacity building funding gaps. Continue to fund the LMSW staff as a member of KPD HOT. Prioritize use of home entitlement for investment in permanent supportive housing. Dedicate opioid settlement funds for SUD rehabilitation services. And this is the funding that we spoke about earlier, that the balance will be paid out over 18 years. If they were the state to pay it out evenly, it would be approximately $20,000 a year, which that alone would not be enough. Transitional housing, the Homeless to House Community Project. Cove House proposed a collaborative Homeless to House community project to be funded jointly by the City of Killeen using the Home ARP and other community partners. When I spoke to the leadership or representative from Cove House. There may be a commitment that is still available to him from the county, from Bell County, to support some of that development there. Cove House was previously partnered with Fort Hood Habitat for Humanity, but they have since moved out of that partnership for this. The proposed development site is 3.457 acres of undeveloped land located at 2607 Atkinson Avenue and owned by the City of Killeen. And the location will create symmetry for this transitional housing project and the reunification center. Going forward on permanent housing, if awarded the HUD Pro Housing Grant as requested, which was $10 million, the City of Killeen will establish an affordable housing development and preservation fund to provide gap financing for all affordable housing, permanent housing types. Community development staff will work with local nonprofits to establish Community Housing Development Organization, also known as CHODOs, to administer home-eligible affordable housing development activities. And that includes affordable rental housing and home buyer unit development, operating and capacity building costs. And I don't have this in the slides, but to Mayor Pro Tem, she stepped out, but I had actually already been doing research and found a grant on SAMHSA that is eligible for local governments. The thing with federal grants is that your local governments aren't always eligible to apply. Sometimes it's a college or university, it's a nonprofit only, or it's just the state. There is one that is there for local governments, and it's to develop substance misuse prevention and mental health program services. Is due in February 24, and there's also a round that will come up that will be due in February of 2025. I would love to say that I could write that grant myself, but that's something that if we were to move forward, we would probably want to engage a consultant to assist with developing that grant as we did with the Pro Housing Grant. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you so much for that update. There are no questions for you. Thank you. Madam Secretary. No, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you for that update. I appreciate the information. Just for clarity's sake, can you tell me, so there's a discrepancy in the levels of funding, $14 million versus what we were able to raise. Can you explain that a little bit more as far as what happened there and why there was that discrepancy, or as proposed by Temple?
Okay, so I will be speaking from what was told to me, so this is not directly, but the City of Temple, in our conversation, they said that they had dedicated $14 million over a number of years. We never got to hear what is the number of years. Is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? And what does that number of years equate to when we look at what Killeen has done, which is $3.3 million right here up front that we can document. So I can't say how that $14 million is being dispersed year after year. All I can say is that Killeen, if it was even over 5 years, Killeen would be tracking to fund them. If it was $3 million a year, we would be at 15.
Or it's hard money because we had that upfront investment in this particular.
And we did attempt to glean some clarity. That would be myself, the city manager, and even Judge Blackburn, to ask what is the number of years, and we did not receive an answer.
Thank you. I do have some other questions, but I'll submit those and then for follow-up. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Adams.
Just trying to get clarity. So the folks we nominated for the Arbor of Hope Board, is that still relevant?
To be honest, yes, it's relevant because Killeen did what Killeen said it was going to do. So it is relevant that Killeen follows through and fully engages in the partnership with the intent to complete the task at hand. So yes, that is relevant. So moving forward with, if we were to, put out this RFP and we get an established nonprofit, that means they would already have a board. We could put something in our RFP, I'm sure, to say that we would like whomever responds or is selected to occupy the space, that they designate a seat for a City of Killeen representative on their board. But right now, because of the lack of progress or appointment on the Temple side for the Arbor of Hope, what needed to happen to actually have those 3 people seated didn't happen.
Okay, I think you answered my next question. So there is no nonprofit that we're calling Arbor of Hope, just the concept.
Correct.
Okay, so do we, well, let me figure out how to shape that question before I ask
Okay.
that so it makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Once again, thank you for everything. And I just want to say, the City of Killeen does have a great working relationship with Temple. I think we both have the same objectives, and that is to take care of the unsheltered population. And the council, with your guidance and direction, as we work through this process, and also with our homeless outreach team, which they really been boots on the ground from day one. I think the bottom line is that we ensure with the resources that we do have, that we ensure that it is used for what it's designed to be used for. And that is to take care of our unsheltered population. And I also want to thank you for taking the initiative to even look for grants. And that's one of your strong points, that you know how to find the money. And that's what we need, the resources. So I'm very grateful for that. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you for the presentation. My question is, you showed in your presentation that the City of Killeen had allocated roughly $2 million or set aside for this project that apparently is not coming to fruition, $2.7 million and that's for the reunification center. So is that part moving forward?
Yes, so what my approach to that would be to first publish the RFP. I would not recommend or advise the city to build a building and we don't have anyone to occupy it. So to put the RFP out, see what type of response that we get. And then because the building can be constructed in 3 months, we could have that time to vet and review and find a good provider, and then go ahead and proceed with the construction of the facility.
Okay, perfect. So in the meantime, we will just hold that money in place, earmarked for TBD, depending what we get back from the RFP?
Yes, and myself and my administrative coordinator and community development, Mrs. Rashawn Smith, who I do want to just give her a big round of applause, if I could, because she actually carried this from the time that the previous assistant city manager left and the previous executive director. So I got this packaged and was able to pick this up and carry it on to this point. But we will be looking to draft. I actually have 2 samples of RFPs from the city of Austin for similar type services to occupy or receive funding from them, the city and the capital. And we'll work on having that out, hopefully the first quarter of 2024.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pass our appreciation on to Mrs. Rashawn Smith as well.
I will.
Councilmember Adams, this is your second time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Going back, so we're not building a new organization. We're just going to reach out to do requests for proposals for existing nonprofits.
Yes, and There are at least two nonprofits who are locally situated who would be happy to throw their hat in the ring and see if they could be considered to take this on for the city of Killeen.
Okay, and then the land, we're going to own the land still?
Yes.
Okay.
Killeen, the Killeen Free Clinic, I believe that's what it is. So I've asked for a model of their lease to see what that looks like when the city of Killeen actually owns the building and you have a lessee or organization that's operating the setup for what they are paying, what the city is responsible for. So to see how we can model after that and make it work for the reunification
Okay,
center.
I think we got a couple examples currently for that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. Councilwoman Gonzalez, this is your second term.
Thank you. Just so I'm clear, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. When we started this process, there was some concern from the citizens about our city starting this Arbor of Hope, but it sounds like now what's happening ultimately is that we're going to put out this RFP, and there's going to be an opportunity for established organizations to submit if they're vetted, to be able to run this organization, to be able to help our citizens, which is ultimately what they were asking for in the beginning. So this should be a good thing for the people that are listening, that are interested and do provide that service. Okay, thank you.
That was, I took quite a few meetings when I first got here, and that was one of the things at the top of my list, was to reach out and find out who are our willing and able partners, and to just find out what their interests are, how we could be a better partner if we weren't perceived as being receptive, and just rebuild those bridges or establish those relationships.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez. Councilmember Segar.
Thank you, and great presentation. And when you had mentioned about finding other established nonprofits, that kind of triggered something, because I know that the presentation and all we've been talking about is how we're going to implement this, and so you've done a great job in doing that. But as we look at the long term, I think that as we discuss, because I know that it brings back memories of the homeless shelter and how we helped them get established. But the challenge is always going to be, how do you keep that going forward in the long run? So I think that that's part of the big planning process, because that funding, that's the challenge. When we look at nonprofits, that's exactly what they are, nonprofits. And it's like, okay, how do you fundraise? How do you come up with money? Otherwise, we're looking at them coming back before council in the near future for us to keep them going. And so I think that as part of the process, I think that that's definitely what we have to look at is, what is the long-term plans as we discuss it with them? How are you going to keep that going through the long term? So,
Which is why I am proposing that the city establishes a fund to provide gap funding to these operations, not to have them come and necessarily say they need 50% of their operating money from the city of Killeen, but that they come and they say, we've applied for these grants and these amounts, here's our awards, here's our gap, here's the period for that gap. And it would just be a one-time ask annually if they need it. There are opportunities for the city and some of these organizations to apply for some federal grants as co-leads. So there are many things that we can do. We will have to be creative. We will have to be open-minded and determine and just stay the course. With federal funding, even our federal funding that cities and other jurisdictions received across the country with ARPA, we see what that's like when that federal funding is removed. I come from the world of nonprofits, so I do have an affinity and a soft spot for them when it comes to not being able to predict their funding from one year to the next. And it's not for a lack of trying. a nonprofit. Most of these people are doing the work just simply because they care and they're passionate about it, and they know that from sometimes one month to the next that they could have to shut their doors. But we want to be a supporter, at least, and I'm going to say we want to be a support to these nonprofits here in Killeen that do want to do the work, and they are putting forth the effort. And what's happening with the shortage of funds is not unique to Killeen. And I will only reference back to Toledo for my first year, so we got about 6.5 more months. But I did receive a call from a council person in Toledo about one of our shelters, a family shelter, that was closing their doors because the funding had run out. And she asked me if there was any funding that I knew of. I told her I put some money in a certain line item, go get it. So they were able to keep their doors open. But the point of that is that this is not unique to Killeen. As Councilwoman Gonzalez noted, some of the things that she heard at the National League of Cities, to find out that we are all, unfortunately, in some of the same boats, but we can keep on rowing and get out of this.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I think that as we talk to them, it's, and having grants and all that, that's important. But as you mentioned, things change and you're not always, so it's about what else are you going to, and an example of that might be something like, you mentioned we had a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and I know they do fundraising, they get grants, but also, they do other things. They try to get donations from local, home builders and stuff, and then they had a store where that, so things like that, other sources where they can continue that flow, doing something that's going to generate some kind of revenue for them. So,
Absolutely.
all right, thank you, appreciate it, good job.
Thank you, Councilmember Segar. Mayor Pro Tem.
Good evening. Very good report. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for reality, for using those reality words that shows that stuff just don't happen. So I enjoyed your report, and I'm going to have to go back and go over it to understand more of your details, and I'll send my questions to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Madam Secretary.
DS 23116, conduct annual evaluation of the city manager.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. McNair. Pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Law, Government Code 55.001, the mayor now calls a closed meeting of the City Council on the 5th day of December at 7:08 p.m. Under the following authority. Section 551.074, personnel matter. The City Council will conduct a city manager annual review. Public discussion of this matter would not be in the best interest of the city. The mayor now call the council into closed session. The council completed its closed meeting on December the 5th, 2023 at 8:49 p.m. No, that's not the way this is gonna work. Nope, we're not doing that. All right, we will continue the meeting. Madam Secretary, let me find it. We have our citizen comment on non-agenda items, and this section allows members of the public to address the council regarding any item concerning city business that is not on the agenda. Each person shall sign up in advance, may speak for 3 minutes. A majority vote of the city council is required for any time extensions. Any discussion on an item not on the agenda must be limited to a statement or a specific factual information or existing policies in response to an inquiry or a proposal to place the subject on the agenda at the next meeting. So council, you do have the option that if there is something that is discussed today, the majority of the council would like to put that item on a future agenda, you can. So we just got everybody moving, and I need to get at least 4 people in place. All right. So, Melissa Brown, good evening. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you, council. I appreciate that, again, you all have taken this step as a compromise to allow citizens to come up and speak to you. I had a couple things I was going to talk about, but I'm going to take some good advice that I just received. I'm going to limit it to just one item. And that is the way that public information requests are handled. It has become apparent to me that just like we had some inconsistencies in the past with how the developer fees were charged, there's also differences in how the public information fees are being handled. One person will request something that'll equate to 300 or 400 pages and get charged nothing. Another person will request information and be charged a couple $100s. Full transparency, one of the people I'm talking about is myself. So a few weeks ago, I requested some emails, and I was charged $360 by the city for it. I received about a third of the emails that were said to be had in the possession of the city. I did a couple follow-up requests, and now I am asked to pay another $666 to get the information. Within the Public Information Act, it does allow, if the governing body should decide that information is in the best interest not in the best interest, it's in the interest of the public for that information to be disclosed and put out. The governing body may then either waive or discount the amount of those fees. I'm bringing this to you tonight for 2 reasons, not just because of my situation, which at the request of the council from last week, I will email the council as a whole about the very specifics of this situation, requesting at least a discount, if not the fee waiver on them. But also for everyone else who has public information requests coming up in the future. I feel like if it is important to that citizen, regardless of who it is or what it is, then it's important for it to be put out. I don't know if it's something in the budget that isn't budgeted for, and that's why we're charging for it, or if it's budgeted, but it's still a way to recoup a little bit of revenue. I don't know how that works in the budget. I don't think any of us have ever thought to ask public or council or otherwise. But I would request that the council in the future look into that and how those fees are charged, and maybe set up a situation where we just don't charge citizens to get the public information from their city. Thank you.
Excuse me. You're welcome. Mr. Cochran, sir, you have 3 minutes. Good evening. Welcome back.
I would like to discuss several potential violations of the City of Killeen Code of Ordinances. Article 3, the council, quote, Section 22, the members of the city council in the City of Killeen shall be composed of a mayor and 7 council members. Section 24, the compensation for the council members should not exceed $250 a month, end quote. Last week, the mayor spoke glowingly about the tax-funded, tax-provided communications director and how she travels everywhere with her. Nothing in the Code of Ordinances includes that the mayor should receive a free person to be her servant and do things she begs. Seems that the mayor also has a private executive secretary. According to Open Records, the mayor's private executive secretary allegedly makes $105,000, against a much higher rate than the average person who is a Killeen resident. Another Open Records request indicated that taxpayer-funded communications director makes a salary of $110,000. Again, the average city employee is $45,000. How many people know of this alleged off-the-record employment activities that are allowed in the city of Killeen? Again, the mayor gladly highlights her travels with city-provided communications director to other cities include Washington, D.C., Dallas, and other places, all with the approval of the city manager. Also, does the communications director receive overtime pay for these trips, travel pay, and other monetary rewards for attending things such as radio interviews, podcasts, and other videotape recordings? Not sure, but according to the mayor, they go everywhere together. Staying on topic about the mayor, 2 weeks ago, she had a full-page glowing advertisement in the local newspaper at no cost to her or the political campaign in case she goes for re-election. Each month, the mayor is heard on the public radio podcast around the city. The mayor uses these regular broadcasting to spout out the many wonderful things she does. My question, without a fee, will other people be able to use the only newspaper in town as a candidate to oppose the mayor to be featured in front-page advertisement? Will the local radio station and podcast producers allow a person without fee to be interviewed? In a democracy, it's only important to hear from those who will be opposing the re-election of a troublesome mayor, not only the mayor herself. To the council member who continuously throws a tantrum and is worried that speakers do not stay behind in the council chambers once he has finished, I say to him, you work for me, I don't work for you. If I have a family obligation, I'll go. Funny how this person forgets that part of democracy. To the mayor and the Killeen Daily Herald newspaper, you have worked in the past week to silence my thoughts, my actions, and my voice. You have put my family in danger, but you don't care. Let me rest assure the voters of Killeen, I'm here to stay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Foronino. Mayor violating charter with staff and office space. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, correct. A little bit of background with all of these new security procedures based on your perceived theory of a threat that you and city staff have. I mean, the 3rd floor of this building already, you'd think Howard Hughes has come back from the dead. There's signs all over the place with city employees and city employees only, which begs the question, how do you get to your office, Mayor? You're not a city employee. Oh, point of reference. Charter does not allow you to have an office in this building. You're usurping taxpayer office space, taxpayer time, taxpayer resources, and I've seen the emails where you refer to city staff as your staff. You're not entitled to staff either. I would like an explanation, as would many other people. You're overstepping your bounds. You're granting yourself entitlements. Oh, Ms. Cobb, I didn't mean to interrupt your mealtime. And you want to talk about respect. You usurp city resources, city space that you're not entitled to. I mean, if the Killeen Daily Herald wants you to have your own little de facto desk over there, that's their business. That's private property. This building and everything in it belongs to us, not to you. You occupy that chair up there, not a throne. So I don't know how we square it where you claim in official emails, contact my staff, my office. You don't have an office or a staff. You have your executive power begins and ends when you bang the gavel at the beginning of the meeting and bang the gavel at the end of the meeting. You do not have any executive power, authority, status, or anything guaranteed by Texas state law, by the city charter, or anything from us. We're tired of paying for frivolous, self-aggrandizing that doesn't do anybody but yourself any good. I don't know how else to put it. I'm often called by many of you unhinged, and things that I say are not factual. Eating again. See, this is what I'm talking about. We're not allowed to move, make a motion, raise our voice. And my own councilwoman, Mayor Pro Tem, sitting there stuffing her face with a sandwich. And you want to ask for and demand respect? A lot of the reactions you're getting are backlash. The tighter you close your fist to try to hold on to things, the more things are going to just slip right through your fingers. I mean, this is just appalling. I hope the camera caught that. So I think that we as the taxpayers, I mean, and shame on Mr. Cagle allowing this sort of practice to happen as well, to have the city staff just willy-nilly assigned to you. They don't work for you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Anchor, it's not a back and forth. They have their 3 minutes and that's it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to withdraw mine.
Oh, yes, ma'am. All right, yes, ma'am. Items that arise. Mr. Price.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, sir, and welcome back.
Good evening. Late evening, too. I know it's a lot of business for you.
Yes, sir.
The community homeless police that were out here, they helped answer my question. So I was looking at to address one of the issues, dag blast me, with the number of beds that we had, just for $147,000. I was just wondering if y'all know of a way that you can bring more beds so we can get more people so they can do more of the better job out there for the homeless, to get more people out there that want to get off the streets, get them off the streets, because there's a lot of them out there that actually want that help and need it in 4 beds. We get it, it's community, it can become more if necessary, but more is always better when we're talking about getting rid of the homeless, putting more citizens back to being a citizen, getting them off the streets, right? So that was kind of answered by them. They helped me out a lot. They're great. They're doing a great job and great efforts out there for helping us out. So I wanted to, give them accolades on that, and I appreciate them expressing out that. But I also wanted to speak about the blanket statement that was made earlier, where you warned everybody, right? That's perceived as a threat, right? So I don't appreciate coming in here and being told, you're already on a warning. And I haven't even done or said anything, but I'm already guilty of a crime. Speaking out of turn. That's in no way professional or accepted by me. I think that was out of place and that was incorrect to be even stated. So I think that was a far overstep, right? And something else, it's very delicate for me to say this, but Mayor, if you throw up a hand sign like this, right, it can be perceived in a very ugly manner. So I would say that if you're going to do that with other city managers and stuff like that, that you refrain from doing these types of hand signs that are affiliated with hate groups. So, I don't like bringing these issues up, but there are things that happen and occur that aren't really realized, right? So, again, I don't mean that as harassment, right? So I don't need any retaliatory actions to take place either, because I'm in fear of that happening to me with the accusations of me being harassing. I only ask questions. I don't know everything, so I got to ask a question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Price, as always. Mrs. Dorothy Lovett. Good evening, ma'am. You have 3 minutes, and the question is homeless.
Hello, everyone.
where did you sleep last night? Were you warm? Were you comfortable? Because I go out 7 days a week and I open up a place that I volunteer at to let some of these homeless people come in. Because it's cold out there. It might be 47, 48 degrees, but when that wind chill's blowing up and it's blowing, it's cold. And I know what I'm talking about because I was out there myself. It's hard. There are a lot of them out there that are really trying hard, but they need a place to clean up. So I let them do that too. And I'm lucky that my boss lets me do that. I really, really, truly am. And I'm going to be here every Tuesday because I'm new to clean. But I'm here to stay, and I'm here to help. And I hope you all can help them get a warming center that's closer than Liberty because them people can't make it out there. I mean, Moss Center was a stretch. When I was out here in the wintertime, when I first got here, I was in a wheelchair. Couldn't even walk. I couldn't make it down there. And I was on 10th in church behind an abandoned building in a tent until May or June. And because Officer Moore helped me, I was able to get my birth certificate. Thank God for him and the service they all do. But they need more. There's so many out there that are miserable and they're trying. They're really trying. I got a young man that's 32 years old. He tries to find job or work every day, but he don't have nowhere to live. But he's trying. So I would like you all to try a little bit harder to help these homeless people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Council, that concludes our meeting, and I just want to acknowledge that we have our new assistant city manager sitting next to our city attorney. This is your first meeting, and we're happy to see you, and we look forward, this council, to working with you. With that being said, council, great meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councilmember Adams.
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Okay.
second.
All right, all in favor, yes, all opposed, no.
Aye.
All right,
Yes.
great job, great job. Meeting adjourned.